Again, thanks you guys for being here and for listening. It's unfortunate we love for Dennis Masande, who's a true representative of the Babongo and Pygmy culture. I wish he was here today to be part of the conversation, but I think he'll be part of the next conversation. I want to get right to it. To start, I really would like for each of you guys to briefly introduce yourself by sharing who you are, your current position and role, and also your connection to our work within the Ibogaine space. I'm going to translate for Master Masande. J'aimerais un petit mot, que tout le monde se présente et donne son rôle et sa place dans cet écosystème du Iboga. I want to start with Ambassador Messone.
Thank you, Stefan, and again, greetings to you all, dear friends. I am Ambassador Noel Nelson Messone. I am the Gabonese ambassador to the United States, to Mexico, and to Haiti. So I represent Gabon in these three countries, and also to the multilateral organizations that are in Washington, D.C., the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. I am in this meeting somewhat of the voice of the Gabonese government. Thank you.
Master Moubei.
Merci Stéphane.
Thank you, Stéphane.
Je suis Maître Moubei Boal,
I'm Master Moubei Boal,
avocat au barreau du Gabon,
lawyer in Gabon,
directeur national de l'Association nationale Mahanga Manzambe.
National Director of the NGO Mahanga Manzambe.
C'est une association qui regroupe la communauté de la médecine traditionnelle dans la pratique du Bwiti Misoko.
It's an NGO that gathered the practice of traditional medicine into the Bwiti Misoko branch.
Et je suis de la tribu Masango,
It's from the
sud-est du sud du Gabon.
It's from the Masango tribe from the south of Gabon.
Merci beaucoup.
Thanks a lot. Yann?
Okay.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm Yann Guignot. I'm French Gabonese. I'm the founder and the president of Blessing of the Forest Gabon. My commitment with Iboga is Blessing of the Forest, mainly committed with the conservation and sustainable development of the traditional, cultural, natural heritage of Gabon. And I'm also a Bwiti student for 21 years now. Master Moubei is my Bwiti father. Thanks a lot.
I'm Brian Hubbard. I'm the CEO of Americans for Ibogaine, and I'm here to do exactly what I said I was going to do.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to introduce myself, kind of skip on that earlier. I'm Stefan Lazmi. I'll be your moderator today. I'm a native of Gabon, founder of Reset Health, and an ambassador for American for Ibogaine. There is that phrase that we're supposed to say related to not affiliation with any developer manufacturer. I don't know where I fit it in this, but Reset Health operates between Boston and Libreville, specifically in Gabon. We're establishing a GMP certified manufacturing facility and an analytical lab in Gabon dedicated to producing the highest quality Ibogaine for global export. Importantly, Reset is committed to ethical research, reciprocity, and sustainable cultivation, values that lie at the heart of today's discussion. First topic, I'd like to talk about the origin of Iboga and its importance to the Gabonese people. I want to start with the ambassador. Could you help us understand, can you help the people understand the cultural and spiritual importance of Iboga to the Gabonese people?
Thank you, Stefan. I don't think if I am really the best qualified to answer that question. I think Maitre Mubei would certainly be the best person qualified to answer that question. But what I can say is all Gabonese grow up with some sense of the importance of Iboga and what it is as a medicinal plant and how it is used in traditional medicine in curing many kinds of ailments and illnesses. We certainly know that it's an important plant in our culture, but also in our traditional medicine. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I'd just like to follow up with Master Mubui. In your what the ambassador mentioned, your perspective on how traditional, I'd like you to share your perspective on how traditional knowledge of Iboga is preserved and respected within your community. Je demande votre perspective sur comment la connaissance traditionnelle est préservée et respectée dans notre communauté.
Merci Stéphane pour cette question.
Thanks, Stefan, for this question.
Et pour moi, c'est un privilège justement de parler de l'Iboga devant un parterre non seulement des scientifiques, mais également de toutes les personnes qui ont été sauvées par la médecine traditionnelle à travers l'Iboga.
It's a privilege for me to talk in front of people, scientists, and also as much people has been delivered from illness with Iboga.
Alors l'Iboga, pour nous, a des perspectives multiples.
For us, Iboga has multiple perspectives.
D'abord, c'est une plante sacrée.
First, it's a holy plant, sacred plant.
Elle est sacrée parce que une bonne majorité, sinon une grande majorité de la population gabonaise pratique les rites traditionnels à travers la consommation et l'usage de l'Iboga.
Iboga is sacred because most of traditional rites of Gabon practice their rites using this sacred plant Iboga.
Donc il y a cette pratique spirituelle qui permet également de sauvegarder notre patrimoine culturel parce que les chansons, la danse, les sons participent justement à la connaissance du patrimoine culturel, indépendamment de la médecine traditionnelle parce que c'est à l'intérieur de nos rites que nous pratiquons la médecine traditionnelle.
I think what Master Mubei was saying is that Iboga is at the center of traditional religions and rites that are practiced by almost everybody in Gabon. Most regions and most tribes in Gabon have rites and traditional religions that use Iboga. Iboga is also a vehicle for the preservation of culture through dances, songs, and other aspects of traditional culture. So beyond the aspect of traditional medicine, you also have that traditional cultural aspect, and indeed medicine, traditional medicine, is inside these religious and ritual practices.
Alors, on va développer, c'est une plante d'autant plus sacrée que lorsque vous partez vous faire soigner, lorsque vous avez consommé l'iboga, l'iboga est en droit de te dire à toi-même d'indiquer quelle est l'essence végétale propre à la guérison de ta maladie.
Iboga is so holy and sacred that when you consume it within a healing ritual, Iboga would reveal to the sick person which other plants could be found or harvested to make medicine to cure the particular illnesses that the person is sick with.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I want to follow up with you, Brian. Hearing what you hear, why is it so important for you in the, let's call it the fight that you take on every day? Why is it so important for you that Gabonese voices? Why is it important for you that the origin of Iboga being involved is talked about in this space?
For the question, and there are two answers to that. One is very personal. As many of y'all who are in this room who've heard me speak before know, I come out of the coal fields of Appalachia, a region of the United States that particularly in the South has been historically impoverished. The people who settled that area were the descendants of indentured servants who walked off of the tidewater plantations with the right at the end of 7 years of indenture to leave the fields where they had labored right beside their black brothers and sisters to go and clear a spot of wilderness out in those mountains to have something that looked like a dignified, self-sufficient life. Shortly after the Civil War, coal was discovered. And prospectors with legal documents called the Broad Form Deeds brought pennies for what was invaluable mineral wealth under the feet of those people, bought it for nothing, and then turned them into serfs on property that used to be theirs. And they had to go off of that ground from the top and underneath it and face death every day while they clawed out the living on their hands and knees to keep food on their table. That's where I come from. Once that coal was gone and all the wealth and material progress it produced, it left death and poverty in its wake. So the relationship and the parallels between the threat Western medical demand poses to West Africa, the resource, its people, particularly when contextualized within the historic reality of the abuse of the West, of Africa in particular, rings my bell. I hear it, I see it, and recognize that we're here to break history. That's the first answer. The second answer is this, and in many ways we really, truly, we are at an inflection point in history. Oftentimes when you're in it, you don't see it, but we're here. I can remember, who here is old enough to remember, we are the world. Feed the children. My youth was filled with all kinds of images from Sudan and Ethiopia of the distended belly and hollowed face of the African fly-covered child who was at the brink of death due to physical starvation, due to lack of food. And the United States and all of its material wealth and power orchestrated a cultural campaign of awareness of this reality and sent monumental amounts of food across the ocean to try to save the starving African child. As we sit here so many years later, about 40 down that road, what I see is an entire American society with hollowed face, and distended belly of spiritual starvation and profound spiritual affliction that is directly rooted in the disconnection from the reality of human divinity. Knowledge in the possession of people we have looked down upon for centuries. And now as we face spiritual starvation, we look back across the Atlantic Ocean with a very special opportunity to ask that consideration be given and grace offered in light of the past sins of history to help us save ourselves. That's the big picture.
Jan, question for you. Based off your work in Gabonese villages, your experience with local tribes, I'd like for you to discuss your unique perspective, being born outside of Gabon and living in Gabon for more than the past 20 years, I think, and being involved with this community. What have you observed about Iboga's role in community life and identity?
Okay, thanks for the question. I forget to say during my presentation, I'm also the international coordinator of Manzambe Association of Aspen. So the question is about the importance of Iboga into the communities, right? In the countryside, right? Iboga, as the first important of Iboga, it's a guide. It's a guide to make the community peaceful and united. Iboga is the occasion to make ceremonies, and to gather the community and to let the problems out the temple. You know what I mean? When people are you have to understand that Iboga is linked to Bwiti. And the purpose of Bwiti is to gather people, is to unite people. That's the purpose of Bwiti, to gather people. So Iboga is a unique opportunity to gather all the community and to sing together, to dance together, to heal together, and to put the problem of the community out to manage the problems of that community first. So it's also the first medicine, of course, that help, as Mube said, to reveal all the medicine around the village. So that's it. It's a proud for Gabonese communities. It's really part of the identity. Iboga is supposed to find its cultural heritage of Gabon. National cultural heritage has been declared as a national cultural heritage in July 2000 by the ex-president Elajola. So it's a cultural heritage. For most of them, it's the most precious things that they want to preserve. In fact, they have seen so many other things being looted in Gabon. Iboga is the most precious things that they want to preserve for most of communities in the countryside that still practice the tradition. That's it. I mean, I don't know if I fully answer the question, but that's it. It's part of their identity, totally.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned something. You said something precious for Gabonese people, which leads me to my next topic on sharing Iboga with the world. Mm-hmm. This is a question for Master Noel. How do the Gabonese people generally feel about sharing Iboga, this sacred and cultural plant, with the rest of the world?
La question est très importante parce que d'abord, l'Iboga est autour de la médecine traditionnelle.
It's an important question because Iboga is at the core of traditional medicine.
Et donc notre médecine traditionnelle n'est pas une médecine communautaire. Elle n'est pas seulement destinée à notre communauté.
Our medicine is not only a community medicine. It's not reserved for a particular community.
Elle est destinée à toutes les communautés humaines sans frontières, sans distinction de race et de genre.
It's open to the whole human community without any distinctions of race or whatever distinction there may be.
Et c'est tout à fait normal que les communautés étrangères qui ne sont pas de notre communauté puissent exalter l'importance de l'Iboga en dehors de son origine du Gabon.
That is why the Gabonese people are open to any other community, any other human community benefiting from Iboga.
Et pour nous, c'est un bénéfice pour l'humanité.
It's beneficial for the entire humanity as it is for the Gabonese people.
D'abord du point de vue de la santé.
From the viewpoints of health.
Et c'est intéressant, à l'Iboga, inévitablement, avec le partage des savoirs traditionnels, la communauté internationale va également s'intéresser à notre spiritualité.
By sharing the knowledge around Iboga, the whole world would also be interested in knowing more about the culture and the heritage of the Gabonese people.
Et naturellement avec toutes les valeurs qui sont attachées à la spiritualité.
And naturally with all the values that are attached to Iboga spirituality and traditions.
Merci.
Thank you.
Ambassador, I would like for you also from a government point of view to answer the same question. How do the Gabonese people generally feel about sharing Iboga, but from government point of view?
Speaking from the standpoint of the Gabonese government, we are a resource-rich country. Underground resources such as oil, minerals, but also green resources such as timber, non-timber, resources such as Iboga. We know that we have to partner with the world to derive the benefits of these resources. That we know. And we also know that Iboga, just like Master Noel was saying, is not reserved only for the Gabonese community. It can serve also the whole human community. That being said, we want to engage with the world in mutually beneficial partnerships. That's the key. One of the panelists answering to one question was saying that the way Western research looks at traditional resources and traditional knowledge has a little bit of racism and arrogance and that characterize the way the West had traditionally looked at the other parts of the world. So by saying that, we want to be in as I said, in a mutually beneficial, in a real partnership where contribution from modern science and contribution from traditional knowledge, traditional science, so to speak, come together to the benefit of everybody, to the benefit for the entire human community. So for the government, it is also important that we do it with compliance to all the legal frameworks that exist. We've talked about the Nagoya Protocol, which is today the internationally recognized framework, but also with respect to the laws and regulations of Gabon. So that's from a government perspective, that's also important. But to conclude, we're really open to collaboration. We're open to partnerships. We're open to dialogue on how to advance in making this important resource beneficial to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Question for you. Brian, as international interest in Iboga and Ibogaine grows, what do you see are the key challenges in involving Gabon to the conversation?
Well, the first thing that has to happen in a partnership is the formation of relationship. And that is what we are witnessing as occurring right in front of our eyes, the creation of relationship. The next thing is to recognize history and to approach this with the humility that it calls for, to look at our partners exactly as partners. We're not here to look at a supplier down the supply chain. We're here to look at partners who have knowledge and resource to offer. We also have to recognize that the Iboga plant, as I was first educated on this matter when I waded into these waters just a few short years ago, takes a very long time to grow. It is a sacred resource. So when it comes to establishing the framework for the creation of Western medical supply chain, there are certain things which need to be completely and totally off limits. And even if an individual plant that takes 7 years to grow and is scarce and under pressure is not utilized, whatever supply chain that is ultimately created through the advancement of science needs to involve the remission of cultural and economic exchange to make sure that those who are the original possessors of knowledge and resource get some actual benefit off of the generation of restoration that will be brought to the West from what they are the ones who own. So the creation of relationship, one that is seen as peer-to-peer, a recognition of history, and then making sure that everything that is done for the peoples of both countries involve everyone who need to be at the table, that there are no trolls guarding any bridges, that all bridges that make this all possible are identified and walked across in unity. Everyone needs to be involved, everyone needs to be heard, and everyone needs to make a contribution to the solution. There is no zero-sum game, and anyone who tries to impose a zero-sum game on any reality is looking to assert control over that reality. We're looking to build a new one, and it's a very precious opportunity to shepherd with care and humility.
Jan, as I mentioned earlier, you have a unique understanding of what's happening, although you're involved with mostly the nonprofit, having many conversations with you, and I picked your brain many times. You have a unique understanding of the cultural, spiritual, science, economic, of the whole picture of what's happening. What are the most pressing economic or regulatory issues from Gabon's perspective as Ibogaine becomes a global commodity? Quels sont
Quels sont les défis que tu entrevois dans ce processus où l'Ibogaine va devenir un produit global, de la sorte globale?
Thanks, very interesting question. There's different things that I see. I used to compare the history of Iboga with the history of tobacco. You know, now you can see a lot of teenagers in the streets smoking cigarettes in any situations. And I always wonder if we come to see them and saying, do you know what is tobacco? Do you know why you're smoking? What is the finality for you to smoke cigarettes? and also asking them if they know where cigarettes are coming from. And for us in France, for example, we think that cigarettes come from America. There's like we have seen cowboys in movies with cigarettes, and we think it comes from that. And everybody has forgotten the real history of tobacco, that it's a sacred plant, that is the cultural heritage of the whole people of South America and North America too. It's the most sacred plant for those people. And now it's used like a drug. It kills people. It's supposed to save people, and it kills people. I'm a bit afraid that Iboga take the same road. I see some people try to facilitate the consummation of Iboga. Some people are doing some supples, some people are doing some candies. Some people are using now Iboga in lots of different ways that was not supposed to be in the traditional area. That's the first thing that I see about the road it can take, like becoming a drug and finally being used at the opposite of what it was supposed to be. Iboga is supposed to make people free, not people to be addicted to anything. It's a medicine to deliver people from any addictions. So we don't want that to be like a market. Second thing that I see is the concrete now impact of this advertising around Ibogaine and Iboga in Gabon. Concretely, Iboga is endangered into the public domain. Today, it's very, very complicated for traditional people to find Iboga into the public domain. Iboga becomes very rare. The quality becomes very poor. The biggest tree has been harvested already to be sold into the West, right? It becomes very poor quality and becomes very expensive because now Iboga becomes the market of poachers. It's now a poaching market, and it's linked to lots of other criminality. It's linked to ivory poaching. It's linked to drug market. It's linked to many dirty market. It's mixed with that, and it makes it the price. The market in the West make the price of Iboga in Gabon becomes very, very high and unaffordable for lots of traditional people. I have seen some ceremonies where people don't have Iboga or very little quantity of Iboga, and some of them sometimes replace that with alcohol. It's already happened because Iboga becomes difficult to get. Gabonese people don't have the culture of agroforestry. It's not their culture. They are hunters and pickers traditionally. Their forest is so rich that, and the people, it's such, there are not lots of people in a very rich country. So traditionally, they need something, they go into the forest and they find everything they need. But now, because of the market of Iboga, they can't find it anymore. So the main problem that I see that is already happening now is that market creating big advertising that amplify the poaching and then making the resource very rare for traditional people and then affect the practice of their rights. It's already happening now. That's why we try to plant as much as possible to guarantee the local use of Iboga, not for the global market, to first guarantee the local use of the medicine, good quality, properly sourced, traditionally harvested, and at the cheapest price as possible for them. So it's one of the impact that I see with the market. You know, the advertising. Iboga takes 7 to 10 years to get mature. The advertising that we do now, what people do, when people hear Ibogaine, lots of people say, I want the original experience, I want the original plant, because when I see presentation, I see Ibogaine, but you always show the tree. So lots of people will say, I don't want the chemical version, I want the original one. So they go on Google, they type buy Iboga, and now you can buy Iboga on social media. On Facebook, there's dozens of Iboga sellers, the dealers, a lot of Iboga sellers on Facebook, on TikTok. Now you can find Iboga pills, Iboga cream. So now people can get Iboga delivered into their post office anywhere in the world. That's already happening now. So if the demand increases because there's lots of advertising, in the same time we have to plant Iboga. The proposal I had years ago is for each guy being treated with Ibogaine, we should plant 3 trees in Gabon. Now, for each people being treated, we need 2 plants. We need to plant the trees. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to say, but I think it's the main things that I wanted to say.
No, thank you for this.
I want to be, as somebody speaking in the name of the government, when you are running a country, you have to have foresight and you have to anticipate. You have to deal with what's happening, but you have to anticipate and you have to have foresight. And that's one. And second, globalization is a reality. And as a government, you have to deal with globalization. All right? That's the other thing. Third thing, we can't be pessimistic about the future. We have to be optimistic. We have to look at the opportunities that there are in the future. Yes, as a government, we have to ensure that what is now becoming an important resource, a resource that has very significant impacts and implication for the world in the future, that resource is sustainably conserved, used, and that we protect it from illicit, abusive, and unfair arrangements and uses. We have to build very strong and tight partnerships around the way we want to advance in the future, and that's how we're going to, make it happen. That's how we're going to make it, as I said, mutually beneficial for the entire global community. That's what I wanted to say in reaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. I'm glad you met. I'm so glad you went there, because my next question for you, I think maybe a tough question, but from that government standpoint, how is Gabon approaching the global rise of Ibogaine while preserving cultural heritage, but also fair participation and long-term benefit for its people?
It's a difficult question. I mean, a government always is dealing with the most difficult things because that's how it takes to run a country. What are we doing? First, some of you may know that Gabon has been in the forefront of conservation in the past 2 decades, so to speak, in protecting biodiversity and protecting fragile ecosystems. We have to continue in that direction, and we have to ensure that a resource such as Iboga is really part of that effort. Secondly, we have listed Iboga in the Nagoya Protocol. Yes, that we have done, which in essence is not itself sufficient, but we have now to do all that it takes, to fully implement the listing of Iboga within the Nagoya Protocol. That's that we should be doing. We should be taking measures to prevent and fight illicit harvest, illicit trade of Iboga. We should do more in that direction. Again, I would repeat this. It's essential that we have close, tight partnerships around these priorities. We have to have. Is Logan still here? I don't see Logan. What Logan was presenting yesterday regarding what happened in Texas, in raising the awareness of, Texas government, is what we should do in Gabon also. We should raise the awareness of the Gabonese government and administration regarding the importance, regarding the potential of Iboga for the whole world. The information that Brian was giving us yesterday, that information, I would make sure that the Gabonese government has that information to raise awareness. So that has to be done. That's essential. Because when all the stakeholders share information at par on knowledge, that's how we advance together. That's how we're able to have meaningful conversation, and conversation that ensure that we are working for the benefit of all of us. So that's really what we should be doing.
Thank you, Ambassador. Master Moubé, sur le plan traditionnel, en tant que dirigeant d'une NGO,
Master Moubé, at the traditional level, as yourself, running an NGO that defends culture and tradition.
on a parlé beaucoup des challenges.
We've spoken about the challenges,
Mais quelles sont les opportunités que vous voyez dans le futur pour les communautés locales?
what opportunities do you see in the future for local communities on this issue of Iboga?
Les opportunités sont nombreuses.
There are many opportunities.
La première opportunité, c'est d'abord l'organisation interne de nos communautés traditionnelles.
First one is for our communities to organize. This is an opportunity for our communities to organize.
La médecine traditionnelle ne s'intéresse pas seulement à sa communauté, je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, mais intéresse à toute la communauté nationale et internationale.
I repeat what I said. Traditional medicine is not only for local communities, it is for national community and the whole world.
Mais les revenus provenant de la pratique de la médecine traditionnelle ne permettent pas à la communauté traditionnelle de s'organiser correctement.
But what the local traditional healers are gaining from practicing traditional medicine doesn't allow them, it's not enough for them to organize and do what should be done for the future.
Alors, pour répondre plus précisément à ta question, les opportunités les plus importantes pour nous, c'est cet échange déjà avec la communauté internationale.
But the main opportunity as of now is this possibility to have an exchange between the traditional healers, traditional community, and the rest of the world.
Avec les bailleurs de fonds qui ont les moyens de nous soutenir pour que l'on puisse s'organiser.
It's the opportunity for us to discuss with international partners that can support our need to organize.
S'organiser dans nos communautés parce que nous avons besoin d'éducation de nos enfants.
Because we are various needs that are necessary for us to face, to address, if we have to continue to be good stewards of Iboga.
Que les communautés puissent s'entraider entre elles.
We want these communities to be able to work together
Et cela nous permet également de pouvoir avoir des échanges de savoirs traditionnels avec les autres communautés étrangères qui adhèrent à notre médecine traditionnelle.
The other opportunity is the possibility to have exchanges, knowledge exchanges with the outside world on our traditional knowledge.
Je vous prends un exemple. Marandama Nzambe rassemble tous les pratiquants de la médecine traditionnelle dans le Bwiti Misoko.
For example, my NGO, Magaga Nzambe, is a collective of all the traditional healers who practice what we call Bwiti Misoko.
Mais en raison de l'exode rural, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a des gens qui sont partis de l'intérieur du pays pour s'installer dans les capitales, la pratique du Bwiti Misoko n'était plus la même avec beaucoup de rigueur doctrinale.
Due to rural exodus from rural areas to cities, those who had that traditional knowledge left, and the traditional medicine is no longer practiced the way it used to be in villages and in rural areas.
J'ai été choisi par ma communauté pour organiser le Bwiti Misoko sur toute l'étendue du territoire national.
I was picked by my community, who is the steward of Bwiti Misoko, to organize that practice around the country.
Mais quels sont les moyens qui sont les miens pour organiser une grande communauté traditionnelle comme celle-là si je n'ai pas un soutien financier de l'État?
But I cannot do it because I don't have enough resources. I don't have any backing from the government.
Que IMCF me pardonne de la citer, le Fonds américain d'aide à la médecine indigène qui soutient BOTF. Et c'est grâce à ce soutien, à ce partenariat, que nous avons reçu le soutien financier pour organiser toutes les communautés traditionnelles sur toute l'étendue du territoire national. En 3 ans, aujourd'hui, Marandama Nzambe regroupe la meilleure organisation traditionnelle de notre pays.
I've been able to receive some funding from partners in the US, and that has helped me organize and be able to strengthen the work that Magaga Nzambe is doing now.
En tant qu'initié, en tant que dépositaire de la science traditionnelle, j'ai le droit maintenant sur toute l'étendue du territoire national, comme le ferait l'Ordre national des médecins, de voir dans quel temple, quelle est la pratique orthodoxe de notre médecine traditionnelle.
I now I've been vested with the capacity to now go around the country and look at practitioners of traditional medicine and see who is following the normal traditional practice and who is not.
Nos États ont beaucoup de défis.
Our countries have lots of challenges.
La communauté internationale peut l'aider à pouvoir aider les communautés traditionnelles à maintenir la médecine traditionnelle pour l'humanité.
So I call on to our international partners to help us ensure that we are able to preserve these traditional knowledge of traditional medicine.
Alors vous allez constater qu'au Gabon, il y a plusieurs communautés traditionnelles qui pratiquent la médecine traditionnelle. Ils ne sont pas organisés.
A lot of communities in Gabon do practice traditional medicine, but they are not organized.
Ils sont obligés de venir vers moi parce que j'ai donné en quelque sorte la direction des opérations.
So I am now the reference because I've been able to organize my community.
Mais mes ailes sont fragiles. Comment pourrais-je porter toute une communauté, toutes les communautés traditionnelles de mon pays?
So I will need support to be able to continue the work that I'm doing.
Je vous remercie.
I thank you.
Great segue to you, Brian. How does American for Ibogaine view its role in working with Gabonese stakeholders to support ethical growth in the space?
Well, first of all, Stefan, I want to thank you for facilitating this dialogue that is critically important to this mission. And you've done a great job managing a trilingual situation. French, the King's English, and straight hillbilly. You know, we're in uncharted territory here. This truly is the undiscovered country in terms of what we're trying to pull off. While I have just really barely scratched the surface of what traditional knowledge tells us about this plant, the one thing I am very persuaded of is that it's analogous to the legend of the Hope Diamond for those of us who are here in the United States. I'm 100% convinced that the medicalization of Ibogaine within the United States and within the West broadly will not be a mission that lends itself to success in the hands of unclean hearts. You just mentioned the most important word in my vocabulary, I believe, and that's freedom. This is an emancipation medication. It will not allow itself to be dominated. And any effort to do it assures failure. This organization is built for one mission, and that is to assure the success of the availability of this emancipation medication to every person in this society. And that means our organization will do its best to be the steward, to facilitate the discussion that facilitates the relationship which is necessary to create the reality that we are all here to think through and be co-owners and custodians of. Americans for Ibogaine doesn't own this. None of us individually own this. This is a divine opportunity that will allow us to serve it if we serve it properly. Americans for Ibogaine aims to do just that. And as we've talked about, and I've said several times, this is a multi-dimensional chess mission. It is empirical, it is political, it is cultural, and it is spiritual. And as our organization makes its way to try to lead this effort, we look forward to learning from our elders on the basis of centuries of ancient knowledge how to best serve this emancipation medication within our society.
Thank you. I want to touch real quick on collaboration and partnership, because I think that's where we are at this moment. Before I get into the last point where we discuss the most important thing, reciprocity. In terms of collaboration, this is a question from the ambassador or Jan. In your opinion, how can Gabon best collaborate with the United States and partners like American for Ibogaine and other international partners to address those cultural and economic challenges?
Okay, thanks. There's some, in Gabon, there's some project, there's some, like a strategy that we are working on with the civil society, including Mahanga Mazambe. We work on a strategy for the next years about what we want to do. The first thing that they want to do is an inventory of their knowledges. Because, you know, Bwiti, the traditional medicine in Gabon is oral tradition. Nothing is written. So when nothing is written, it can be corrupted and can be appropriated, you know. So the goal of Mahanga Mazambe that we support would start to make an inventory of every traditional knowledge around Iboga and other plant medicine, and to work on IP with that. That's something that we need to do as soon as possible. And it requires some funds, of course. So we will need some funds from the US or other countries to start this inventory. There's also an inventory of the medicine itself to do. And there's also some research that needs to be done on the medicine. I've heard that in Colorado people are very interested about growing Iboga, and other countries. Lots of countries are very interested in growing Iboga, but Iboga is not tomatoes. It's not as so easy to grow. We need to make proper studies about the different varieties of Iboga. How the alkaloids are developed into each varieties, because there's some mechanism of development of each alkaloids even Ibogaine, the secret again around the development of Ibogaine in the plants. Research about the soils to understand the link between the quality of the soils and the quality of the alkaloids. There's a lot of studies to do on Iboga. Inventory and chemical studies. This needs to be done too. So we're looking for support for that. Also, as Grandmaster Noel said, we need to organize a national and an international conference in Gabon. We need to develop awareness with the government of Gabon, with the traditional community of Gabon, with everybody who can't come here, like you said, Babongo people. We need all those people to be gathered in Gabon with the international communities to discuss about that. They need to be part of the discussion. Everybody needs to be part of the discussion. Forest Ministry, Culture Ministry, Agriculture Ministry, Research Ministry, everybody in Gabon needs to be aware about the situation here. Not so much people know in Gabon what's going on really here. And even if I tell that my father for 20 years now what's going on here, it's now that he come here and see what's going on, that he fully understand the picture. So we would like to organize a conference in Gabon to really create like a kind of shock in the mind of people in Gabon. So we need support for that. First, IP, inventory and studies of the resource, and spreading the information in Gabon. That's the main three goals that we want to do. We are working on a movie also. We wrote a movie called From Penguins to Junkies. We are starting to discuss about the realization of this movie next year. Because Gabon wants also to tell the story of Iboga. There's many movies that has been done by the West on Iboga, many movies, but I can tell you that no Gabonese recognize themselves in any movies that has been done. Nobody recognizes the story of Iboga in any movie that has been done. They see some stuff, yes, but the full story is not told. The story of how Iboga came to the United States is not told, not fully told. There's lots of stuff that needs to be revealed and told and discussed. So we want also to make that movie to spread the point of view of Gabon internationally. That's the main goals that we have in the next years with the traditional communities.
Thank you, Jan. Mr. Ambassador, do you have anything to add to that?
In this meeting, I've seen three main categories of stakeholders. I've seen AFI as I would say the chief coordinator. I've seen the research and medical people, and I have seen the coalitions of NGOs and other actors on the ground. Similarly, in Gabon, you have various categories of actors. You have the state government, you have civil society, you have the research establishment, then you have international partners. The first thing is for all these stakeholders, as I said, to be at the same level of information and knowledge of what's happening. That's the first point. I feel becoming, in the forefront of this effort. To me, it's useful that a conversation takes place between AFI and the Gabonese government to have an initial exchange on what's happening here and how the Gabonese government could organize to be part of the conversation and part of the effort. So that's to me is the basis of how to how should I put it? How to really put collaboration on the best foundation. Second, at the national level, there has to be stronger coordination between the different stakeholders within the country to define what the priority actions should be and to decide where the resources could be found for these actions. So that's at the national level. And the discussion on this has to take place also between Gabon and all the other stakeholders. Now, one bridge that is important to establish through the government is how to connect research stakeholders in Gabon and research stakeholders in the US and abroad. That's very, very important also. So that's how I see it. Then, when it comes down to the economics of it, that's another aspect where discussion has to take place between private sector that is working on development, further development, and what the private sector would need as support or framework from the Gabonese government accessing the resources. But that conversation has to take place also. That's how I see collaboration advancing in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Last topic here, reciprocity. Probably the last topic today, but from a Gabonese person point of view, and also from what I've seen so far in the conversation, what I've heard in the conversation, might be the most important thing to talk about today. Reciprocity is a term we hear often. Ensuring that Gabon and its people share in the benefits of the global Ibogaine industry. I wanted to ask you all about reciprocity and what it means for you. I want to start with, say, Brian. From your work in the US, what interests are you seeing among stakeholders in building reciprocity into the industry growth?
Well, among everyone who has ownership of this project, there is great and significant interest. Just as with Ibogaine itself, I believe that there are a lot of decision makers who we will have to speak with who need to be informed, educated, and properly persuaded about the vital necessity of this component of our collective project together. Now, in many ways, in some ways, this is going to be easy because there are three areas of cooperation. There's the academic area of cooperation. There's cultural cooperation. Now, those two can be fairly easily facilitated as long as we know who is there in Gabon, who needs to be in the process and in the conversation. We know certainly here within the United States who's involved and who needs to be in the conversation. These people need to be linked together, and they need to have conversations, and they need to build relationships. And through just the human process of interaction, you see cooperation flourish. I know that there's going to be a group within the University of Texas system that becomes part of this Texas consortium. The University of Texas system needs to make contact with academic research infrastructure in Gabon to the process in terms of cultural cooperation. With the support of the River Styx Foundation, the Flourish Trust, both of whom made the Gabonese delegation's presence here possible, and I want to recognize Mary and Violet as part of that. We have a significant number of players who want to make sure that this cooperative framework is a reality in the United States, and to that end, we anticipate making a trip under the AFI banner to Gabon January 5th within the framework of January 6th to the 16th to kick off this entire cultural endeavor. Now the last part, which is economic exchange, this is where it gets tricky. AFI is a 501c3 nonprofit public policy and advocacy organization, thinking strategically because of Texas and the fact that that is our creation. We have a little lightning in the bottle here to exert some implied, though informal, influence over how all this plays out. That involves making sure that the implementation framework within Texas includes a plan for the economic recognition of that partnership in terms of supporting projects within Gabon that can materially improve the human condition. The US dollar goes a long way, and it's not as if anyone's going to have to be scalped to do things which are meaningful. So, not to go over and tell and impose, here's what we're going to do for you, but to ask, what is it that you need in the here and now that we can help address through the supply of resource that we have to you, is the first question to ask with humility, so we could be educated. What do you need? What is it that we have, and how quickly can we deliver it? This is dialogue, it is relationship, it is the creation of reality.
Thank you, thank you. I'd like, before we wrap it up, I'd like Mr. Ambassador to touch on this point on reciprocity, but also, sorry, Master Bwiti to touch on it quickly. Mr. Ambassador, what form of reciprocity do you think would be the most impactful for Gabon?
Well, it depends on how you define reciprocity. Reciprocity, simply put, is this is what you do for me, and this is what I do for you. That's simply put. We're talking about Ibogaine or Iboga becoming a resource that comes from Gabon that is going to serve, is going to be used for the benefit of humanity. In accessing that resource, what would be the benefits from Gabon or for Gabon, and what would be the benefit for the other partners. That's where the discussion has to be, and reciprocity starts with that discussion, really. How do we see in Gabon where reciprocity should apply? And how do our partners see where they could extend that reciprocity? So it starts. Excuse me. It starts with that discussion. I don't think at this stage we could be. How should I put it? We could be deciding in a definitive manner what reciprocity should be or is going to be, as things stand for now. But what's important is to have a conversation on what we would expect and what our partners would expect, and how do we move together, each playing its part of the bargain, its part of the discussion, its part of what needs to be done to advance. We want to advance in the same direction. We want to achieve the same objectives. What are our expectations and what are the expectations of our partners? That's really the key at this stage. What should happen? That's part of the discussion is concerned.
Spoken like a true diplomat.
Yeah. Master Bwiti, avec votre expérience, qu'est-ce que les communautés locales valuent le plus dans des relations avec des partenaires internationaux? I'm asking, from your experience, what do local communities most value in international partnerships?
Sur quoi les communautés accordent plus d'importance dans les relations avec les partenaires?
Bon, je pense que la première idée avec les communautés internationales, c'est d'abord le soutien financier. Parce qu'une communauté internationale ne peut pas venir vers nous directement pour chercher l'échange des savoirs traditionnels. Le premier échange que nous avons avec les communautés internationales...
On va faire la traduction.
Oui, excusez-moi.
Excusez-moi.
I'm not sure to fully get the picture of what he said, but yeah, he said that the first things that is waiting is financial support for the communities, that people can't come to them without this. That's where I lost a bit.
Vous avez dit que je ne peux pas venir. Vous pouvez répéter?
Oui, alors donc je fais la différence, et c'est ce que je voulais soutenir. Je fais la différence entre la communauté internationale qui veut s'adresser directement aux communautés traditionnelles. On attend de la communauté internationale du soutien financier pour nous permettre de nous organiser sur le plan interne. Mais par contre, ceux qui viennent de l'étranger à titre individuel, ils viennent, chercher d'abord leur santé. Et deuxièmement, derrière même la recherche de la santé, c'est également une forme très maligne d'appropriation culturelle parce que par cette façon-là, ils s'approprient de nos savoirs traditionnels.
So he's saying, okay, he said 2 points from international partners that wish to be in direct contact with communities. They can come in and be financial partners. That's the regular thing to do. But there is the other aspect of people, individual, like many of you that I know who have traveled to Gabon, and when, for personal reason, to get treated or to discover what it is, like what to watch for is in that process of coming in as an individual and learning what you learn. You have to be careful of with the aspect of cultural appropriation, because a lot of foreigners are coming to Gabon, get a little bit of knowledge, and come back to the States, go to South America, and start spreading words that are really not what's really going on.
Alors, et là, il faudrait que je sois également sincère. C'est l'occasion de parler de sincérité parce que dans la spiritualité, il ne faut jamais mentir.
And he's saying, right now, I think you should be as honest as possible with everyone, because in spirituality, honesty is the key.
Il y a des individus qui viennent pour se faire soigner au Gabon. Il y a des individus qui viennent également s'initier dans nos rites traditionnels. Mais quand ils repartent chez eux, sans pour autant avoir l'autorisation d'initiation ou bien de faire un certain nombre de pratiques traditionnelles, c'est ce qu'ils sont en train de faire sans avoir obtenu l'autorisation de leur maître spirituel gabonais. Et là, c'est très dangereux.
So those individuals who are coming to get treated, but also get initiated into the tradition, they come in Gabon and get that knowledge, as I mentioned earlier, and go back in their respective countries, respective environment, and without authorization, become teachers, become healers, just from that one experience.
Alors, nous avons des exemples patents et je ne vais pas les citer parce que...
You got names and you just don't want to say it.
Parce que le monde aujourd'hui est très ouvert.
Because the world is open.
Il y a une des membres de ma communauté a initié une femme au Costa Rica.
There's a member of the community that initiated the lady in Costa Rica.
Elle n'avait jamais donné d'autorisation d'initier en dehors de son territoire national.
she never had the authorization to initiate people outside of, I think it's the Gabon, probably Gabon? Outside of Gabon. And in our country,
Voilà.
outside of Gabon.
Mais en partant chez elle, elle a demandé à au moins 6 femmes de s'initier.
As soon as she got to her home, she asked 6 ladies to get initiated.
Mais malheureusement, il y a une femme qui est décédée.
Unfortunately, one of the people died.
Tout simplement parce que, 1, elle n'avait pas d'autorisation, 2, elle n'avait pas la technique pour pouvoir éviter un certain nombre d'accidents. Troisièmement, ça fait du tort au Bwiti Misoko parce que au Costa Rica, il y a une campagne qui a été menée contre l'Iboga et contre le Bwiti Misoko.
And this hurts all the work that's been done so far, especially in the right of Misoko, because that person was initiated by the Misoko tradition. So it had a large impact on the Misoko, but also people in Costa Rica, you said Costa Rica, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Costa Rica, gather against the advancement in Iboga and Ibogaine.
Voilà. La médecine traditionnelle chez nous, c'est une école. Il faut avoir des grades.
Traditional medicine in Gabon is like school. You get yeah, different level of training. Yes, thank you.
Voilà. Vous vous initiez au Gabon et lorsque vous repartez chez vous, vous prétendez avoir reçu des grades qui ne sont pas de votre niveau spirituel.
You come and get initiated one time in Gabon, and you get out to your home, go back to your home and pretend that you are a teacher and that you understand the whole tradition of medicine. Coming to the States, going to college for 1 year, and pretend that you have a degree.
Voilà, et naturellement ça nous fait du tort, parce que cet enfant-là qui est allé faire des pratiques spirituelles au-delà de son grade, on a interpellé, moi en tant que directeur national de Zambé, j'ai interpellé son père spirituel. Il est venu à Libreville, je l'ai interrogé, parce qu'avant de sanctionner l'enfant, on interroge d'abord le père spirituel pour lui demander à quel grade l'enfant se situait.
So in this type of situation, if you have someone like this who got initiated by someone in Gabon, who is the initiate spiritual father, before you go and talk to the person who made the mistake, he had to bring in the spiritual father and question him about what is the level of education of that person that's administering the medicine outside.
Alors comme c'était un étranger, nous avons demandé à son père spirituel de le convoquer pour qu'il soit également auditionné pour le confronter avec son père spirituel.
So he had to arrange a meeting between the spiritual father and the initiate.
Alors donc, il est venu au Gabon, il a organisé une cérémonie et devant les sages, il s'est expliqué et on a constaté qu'il était en violation des règlements de la pratique traditionnelle.
So they had a meeting during a ceremony, and during a ceremony, they discovered by asking the right question what the person did wrong. I mean, it's just a parenthesis in what it's saying. It's difficult for me to translate this because I actually know the person. Now I'm realizing that I know the person that he's talking about. So, and I know, regardless of what the conversation, I know the point of the conversation, but regardless of the point of the conversation, I know this person meant good. There was nothing negative behind trying to initiate people. There was no ill will, and things. My point from a Gabonese perspective, also American, is mistakes happen. I'm not here to defend anybody, but just knowing the person, and now as I'm translating, I'm understanding that he's talking about someone that I know. I might have made faces, So,
Political.
just wanted to put it out there.
Alors, donc, ce qui se passe, c'est quoi? C'est que quand il est arrivé, on a organisé, comme il a dit, une cérémonie. On lui a donné la bénédiction.
So they organized a
Les conseils
ceremony.
nécessaires pour qu'il s'oriente normalement dans sa vie spirituelle.
So during the ceremony, they talked to the person, gave him advice, and prayed for him, and sent him his way and tell him how to conduct himself in the future.
Et donc, je rejoins naturellement Excellence en disant que si vous voulez ce partenariat, il ne faut pas voler, je m'excuse, il ne faut pas s'approprier dans le dos de vos maîtres spirituels.
So what he's saying, he wants to get to, in what the point he wants to make is, if you want to come and learn the way of the medicine, what is traditional medicine, traditional healing is about, don't come and be a thief. Just ask, and it will be given to you. And just you have to respect the certain rules, the same way you respect rules around medicine in the States and around research and drug development. Any of you that come to Gabon and decide to go that route, you have to know that there are rules that you have to respect, and those rules apply to the physical world, but also spiritual world.
Établissons les contrats avec des clauses en toute connaissance de cause pour le partage des savoirs traditionnels. C'est pour notre bien, nous tous.
Let's establish different ways of partnership, agreements, so we can work together on putting the medicine out there and save people. Does anyone has any question? Yeah.